helping you find your new way forward to the best years of your life. This is a New Way Forward podcast with your host, Paul Long.
I have discovered a method that can help you work through a problem, a big decision, and a challenge, and it works, but it's one of those things that at first seems kind of silly, and that is until you really think about it and until you try it. And I got to tell you, I know a lot of very successful people or people trying to overcome challenges or come to a big decision, and they're like, yeah, don't tell anybody, but I've tried it too, and it really works. All right, here's the premise. You ever notice how when you might have a friend, a loved one, a colleague, and they're faced with a big decision or a big dilemma, a big problem, a big challenge, and you talk with them and you're full of great ideas, great insights, great solutions, great questions to ask. And yet when it comes to you, you have a hard time figuring it out and doing the same thing. Why? Why is it you can help somebody else so easily and not yourself? And actually, when you think about it, you should be able to help yourself even better because you know more about you and the situation. Here's the solution. You know how you have that conversation with that friend or colleague or loved one? You have it with yourself. I'm serious. Stick with me on this. So, a time I really love to do it, and in fact doing it regularly, is in the car. But you can do it in the shower. That's a briefer conversation, and be thankful that I'm not recording this in the shower. You can lock yourself in a room. You can go for a walk and put an earbud in. People think you're talking to somebody on the phone. And here's how it works. I'm sitting here. I'm the guy with the challenge, the problem, the decision. Sitting next to me is my alter ego. The me that's going to ask the questions, that's going to make the sharp observations and challenges or validate me. Once you get in the mindset of it, it's kind of easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say, oh man, I got this problem, and I'm going to articulate it. And then my alter ego, is going to start asking me questions or making challenges. Because in our brains, we know these things. This is the way that we connect about them. And here are a couple of really, really, really big things that are beneficial and are key to this working. So number one is you're talking. You are having to verbalize the problem, the decision, the ins, the outs, the pluses, the minuses about it. You are having to verbalize it. So number one, your brain is slowing down and focusing. I don't know about you, but I know myself and so many people, our brains can be like a pinball game with just a thought bouncing around in 50 different directions, or one of those pinball games that captures the balls and you hit the right thing and all of a sudden you got 5 balls going around. It's hard to focus, it's hard to articulate, it's hard to settle down and get down to the essence of it. So, when you have to speak it out, your cognitive articulated brain is really focusing on making the best case, giving the best and clearest explanation about it. Hold on, bump. And if you're trying to kind of push a point of view, you're trying to make it compelling. That's a big thing. Number two, believe it or not, you're hearing yourself. You ever hear that expression? Oh, if you could just hear yourself. Yeah, you are hearing yourself. Because I've noticed sometimes, like in one big instance, let me back up and tell you the story. I was on my way up to my friend's cabin for some fly fishing, and it was 15 minutes in my ride. I got 3 texts and 2 phone calls from clients needing something right away. And I'm just so pissed because that's my drive up there to talk with myself, think things through, decompress, go up there and have a really good time. And I've got all this stuff I've got to do. And it's just like, this is after years of thinking I got to cut my ties there and put all my efforts into this new way forward. And so I start my session and I'm hearing myself saying,
I have been hearing you say the same thing for over 2 years. Either do it or don't.
Exactly. In fact, I heard that from myself, and it was as if somebody else had said it to me, because I had a definite physical and emotional reaction to it. I was pissed, I was embarrassed, and I realized I was right, so to speak. I realized that I was right, that I had been whining and complaining about this for years, so I set an ultimatum for myself. I set an ultimatum for myself, and this guy started challenging me further. Oh yeah, you've said that before. How are you going to do it? Blah, 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 blah. Which was great, because all of a sudden I went from calling myself on it and saying, all right, I got to do it, to what is it really going to take to do it? It wasn't just a notion anymore. It wasn't general thoughts anymore. I was starting to hold myself accountable. In fact, I said 1 month from today, I've either quit or I'll never do it. And so then on the ride back, it was this discussion with my alter ego about what do I need to do to make this work, to actually cut the ties. And then, I've been saying, oh, if I could just quit, I could really rock and roll with this. All right, time to put up or shut up. It got me very, very real. So that's just one example.
I need to go to the bathroom.
The second thing about this is that when you talk it through like this, it's great to make notes. Now, I can make verbal notes here on my phone, but I don't hesitate when I'm driving to pull off the road in a safe place and write down notes, even if they're one-liners. Because you aren't going to remember everything and you don't want to miss anything. I then, when I get home, before I go to bed that night, I write everything down in my journal. So in one thing, that's really, branding it into my head, and it's making sure that I don't forget anything, and it furthers the commitment in it. Now, another beauty of this is that you might say, well, this is kind of almost like masterminding or mentoring with yourself. And you're right, in a way, because I've had some of those breakthrough thoughts listening to myself or challenging myself. A few times, because I have some mastermind partners, is that after I go through this process, I then talk it over with them. And while sometimes I just want to flat out take a problem or a challenge to them and say, what do you think? I like this because I thought it through, and from them I can get validation, I can get it shot down, I can get it challenged, I can get it tweaked, but it becomes a part of this process. And especially when it's something big deal like changing your frigging life, it's a wonderful thing. And I've also noticed that, well, because of this conversation in particular, or any other action that you do, and there have been several others, I tell people about what my conclusion is. I might not tell them how I came about it, but I tell them, by 1 month from today, by X date, I'm doing this. And I've had, with those close to me, they're like accountability buddies. I know I better do it, or they're going to go, oh, Paul. And with my accountability buddies, they were like, all right, I'm putting it in my calendar. I'm expecting a phone call, a text, or an email that day saying that you did it. So the bottom line is that the very kinds of insights and imagination and logic and think through that you can give to other people, you can do for yourself. The key is this method, because this method puts you in a frame of mind, puts your mind in a context and a functional state to actually articulate, narrow it down, have it focused, make it legitimate, that you might not otherwise be able to do just randomly thinking in your head. And the beauty of it is that alter ego is available to you 24/7.